Hello, welcome to my live stream. My name is Jason King. This is day 2 of 99 days of deeper embodiment. Super excited to be here on day 2. Everything should be streaming correctly. Feel free to join and let me know that you're here. Comment. I'm sorry, there's a little bit of noise outside my room at the moment. I think they're fixing the heat in the house. So I'm just going to sit in silence as that noise dissolves. We'll wait for anyone to join. This is streaming to Facebook and to YouTube live. So if you prefer YouTube, just click to follow my channel and then you'll get the notifications there. I'm also uploading it afterwards to Instagram TV so that we cover everyone. Mhm. Okay, wonderful. So here we are today on day 2 of 99 days of deeper embodiment. Today I want to just do a little bit of background on what where I come from so that you get to know me personally and how it is that I'm here offering satsang on deeper embodiment. In case you don't know me, there's many who have been following me for some time, and so they do know me. But I like to just dive a little bit deeper because that's what this is about. This is about diving in deeper. And so I just want to share a little bit of my own story today while I'm sitting here a little bit bundled up because it's chilly in this house. Um, the, the heat isn't working. I put a space heater on just a few minutes ago, so it's going to warm up. Mm. Ah. Hmm. So, my name is Jason King, and I grew up in New York in the United States. I was born in the 70s, and I always had a pull towards the spiritual. I was raised in a born again Christian household, which was really special to me. My relationship with God and with Jesus Christ at that time. I remember when I was really young, I had this book. It was about that thick, and it was all just children's stories from the Bible. And um, every night I would just get in my top bunk. I was on a bunk bed, and I would read that, and I read every single one of the stories growing up over and over again. Um, I also went to private Christian school for some time. It was a what we would call a born again evangelical Christian school, and I remember the first time that I got baptized in the Holy Spirit. what a, what a, what an interesting experience that was. My teacher, it was it was the 6th grade. My teacher, her name was Mrs. Pop, and she was really into having prayer sessions during class. And so couldn't speak in tongues. I had never been baptized in the Holy Spirit at that point in time. And one day during a prayer session in class, when other kids were speaking in tongues and she was speaking in tongues. She was like, "You don't speak in tongues." And I was like, "No, I've never been that's never happened to me." And I wasn't going to be dishonest about it. Um, and so she brought me outside in the hallway. And then she started praying over me. She put her hands over my head and she started praying. She's like, "Okay, just relax and let the Holy Spirit start to come through your voice. And just say whatever is there." And so I remember that a part of me was like, "This woman is crazy. She just wants me to say whatever gibberish comes up." I remember this. And and then another part was like, "Okay, well, let me just relax and let it flow." And so here, well, how old was I in 6th grade? 12. Yeah, 12 years old. And I just relaxed and it began to flow. And then strange words started to come out of my mouth. And so I remember that year, when this is pop, there was a lot of these prayer sessions in class where I would just be praying in tongues and and allowing that to move through me. And later on, much later on, I found out that Osho does something similar. He does something similar in the sense that he had sessions where people would just speak in gibberish all day for hours and really get into feeling. And so that's what I now remember, is that when I was in 6th grade and I was having these prayer sessions in class, that I would feel presence, and presence would move me, and as it moved me, it would release emotions, and I would cry, and I would feel presence. And then there's videos online, you can Google them, of Osho and some of the sessions that they did, where they would start getting into an ecstatic mode of dance and just speaking in gibberish, whatever comes up. And so through this, as they just allowed gibberish to flow through them, then they would unwind whatever emotions, whatever ideas, whatever perspectives were there. Because there's no ideas around it. And if there's no ideas around it, there's nothing to grasp onto it. There's nothing to hold onto it. There's nothing to create a story around it. And so it just leaves, becomes emptiness. Mm. It's only when the mind holds on to it, creates a story around it, then it becomes an identity, and then it becomes a perspective, and then it becomes something that we have to defend. Then it becomes there becomes a me that other people are looking at and judging. Mm. But from the pure presence that we are, there's none of that. So, in the interest of deeper embodiment, why don't we just get down and jiggy with it? Why don't we just start to connect with whatever's within us and let gibberish flow? Yandere yatara harabo yandere shita andara undara harara yatara arara harara yatara arara harara yatara ara hara hara hara, and just feel in the heart, feel the presence in the heart. Oh, the heat is starting to come up. I'm a little bit warmer now. I'll take this off. So we say just feel in the heart. Let that feeling and let whatever is there be felt fully and completely, without any ideas about it. We don't need to go into what we're feeling. We don't need to go into the sensations. We don't need to create a story around the sensations. Just let them flow. And that's where the energy is. So much energy is tied up in creating stories around what it is that we're feeling. Yundara Sadara Harra Kundara Shandara Harra Bokoya. And just feel that. See? I just click into it. I feel it. So I've done a lot of work with plant medicine in the jungle where I dieted plants specifically with the intention of learning their icaros, learning how to sing, learning how to heal in song. The first time I went down to the jungle was in 2011, and then I moved to Peru, and I lived in Peru full time from 2012 until the end of 2015 before I moved back to the States. And then I only stayed in the States another 3 years before I moved back to Peru again. I was in Peru a year and a half just recently until I just came back last week to the States. And so this past year and a half was extensive dieting, extensive just being with myself, extensive just sitting, feeling. And plants, they're really, really supportive in assisting with deeper embodiment. That's what they love, because they're pure presence. And so in being with ourselves, then what we find is that there's so much identity, so much mental energy running us all the time. And it was funny because when I landed in Newark, when I just got back here last week, I got picked up by a Lyft, and the taxi driver, all stressful ideas running him. And it affects the way that he drives, it affects the way that he thinks, it affects everything. His driving just turns into just really jerky, really, really disconnected from anything at all. Really closed. No awareness whatsoever that there is a greater world outside of this idea that he's feeling of being in a rush or being stressed out and needing to make money and be on time. And so in deeper embodiment, we begin to feel what's there without attaching to it at all, without attaching any identity or story to it. And so in healing, in the jungle way of healing, whatever is there that's creating disharmony, that's creating symptoms, can be sung out of the body. And it's sung out of the body through basically running the tape backwards. Just seeing what's there, and then at an energetic quantum level, running the tape backwards. And I say quantum because that's something that we can kind of start to conceptualize. Sometimes we have an idea of what we think quantum means. And so it gives like a sense of something that's energetic, that's not, hooey-fluey. Because there's so many ideas about spirituality and that create so much separation. It's like, oh, well, that's hooey-fluey, it's not real. So if I put the word quantum there, then that becomes more real. Even though, what the hell does the word quantum mean? No one knows. No one really knows. However, working with energetic healing and working with healing modalities with plants, this is what one learns when they go really deep in it. Learns how to sing out the symptoms through running the tape backwards in song. Because the symptoms arrive there through ideas. The symptoms arrive there through the idea of a history, through the idea of a past. This happened to me. This is what happened. And so that becomes an energetic pattern that's there, and that pattern can be seen in the body. And it can be felt in the body if we have the awareness to feel it. And so little did I know that when I was in 6th grade, what this teacher was actually teaching me was something that I would be doing later on in life with awareness, with consciousness, where it's no longer just gibberish, but it's actually with an understanding that there is a logic to this, there is a reason to this, there is a, there is an intelligence behind it. So I'm interested in seeing if anyone's commented. I'm using a tool that streams to multiple destinations at once. So I'm going to jump onto the Facebook here, the Facebook stream, and see. I'm still learning this tool. We'll get this. We'll get this professional eventually. As I upgrade my ability to run these streams, because that's where it feels like I have the most amount of power at the moment. It's just in speaking to what's here. Let's see here. I'm just going to check in on this. Okay, beautiful. That's it. Alrighty. So I think if you comment, it pulls it into the other program too. Oh, it does. It works. Hi, Aiden. Thank you for commenting and letting me see that. Beautiful. So yeah, I don't actually have to pull up the Facebook thing. Let me see that. Aha. Awesome. Cool. I'm getting to know this. This is fun. It's a lot of fun. All right. So let's just drop in and feel what wants to be spoken about next. So we were talking about really getting into the body and feeling what's there without any identification around it. And one of the techniques that I learned at a really, really young age to do that was just speaking in gibberish. Speaking in tongues is the way they describe it from an evangelical perspective, an evangelical Christian perspective. And so the whole point of this is to really just get into the emotional body and to start to work through what's there. You see, what's happening is that we are moving throughout life constantly. And when we're not aware, thoughts are running us. Aiden, no, because I'm not streaming in a group. So that's the answer to that. If I was streaming in a group, then yes, you would need to give permission to Streamyard. However, right now I'm not streaming in a group, so I can see you. I'm streaming straight to my page. So beautiful, but yeah, when we do open a group, that's great information right there. But I'm using an app called Streamyard, which is super cool. So anyway, dropping back into where I was at, in that when we're in life, when we're moving through life, then what is coming up for us all the time is emotions, and they're there. That is the language of the universe as far as being in a body is concerned. The body is a feeling instrument. And so what we're actually seeing in our reality is a projection of what we're believing. And so because it's a projection of what we're believing, then the beliefs come through, and when they come through as something that we are feeling. So if I believe that I am a person who is being abused and is small and can be abused, then that has a feeling attached to it. There's a charge there. And so that charge is like a let's describe it as um, let me just feel into the best way to describe this. Hmm. It's like a, a f- basically a little piece of metal that's like a flake, right? So let's just say that it's a flake, and let's imagine that what the body is. It's a electromagnetic machine, and we know that electricity, the way that electricity works, is that um, if there's a piece of metal there, then a metal is conductive. And so here we have the body, which is an orb of electromagnetic energy. And then if there is a little flake of metal that comes and sticks itself to the screen of electromagnetic energy, then it begins to distort the the way that the electromagnetic wave is moving, right? So when an idea comes in as an idea, if it hits my screen, and when it hits my screen, if I can't feel it and let it move into the flow of me, if I identify with a part of it or piece of it and make that real for me, then it starts to project a reality. Mm. And so when I'm moving through life from past until now, if there's a lot of these that accumulate, then what they do is they're creating an entire orb around me of these little metal filings, these little metal shadings that have a they're I mean, we can kind of look at them as almost two-dimensional. They don't have any sort of substance to them other than the fact that there's a back and a front to them. And so it's an idea, it's a dualistic idea. Um, and so we could say that these ideas, they kind of accumulate on the screen. And when they accumulate on the screen, all these charges over the course of a lifetime, then that's all that I'm perceiving. That's all that I can feel. That's all that's there in my awareness. And so, as I'm beginning to embody myself, because myself is pure awareness, myself is untouched presence. And when I say untouched, what I mean by that is that these ideas actually don't touch presence, they don't change presence in any way. So, the deeper I go in my realizations, then what I begin to see is that awareness is always the same. It doesn't get touched by ideas. So ideas show up within awareness, but it doesn't actually change awareness in any way, which is where um, which is where that two-dimensional shape comes in. If the idea is only two-dimensional, it doesn't have any actual substance to it. So it's not actually changing awareness in any way. It doesn't change you. It does show up, and when it shows up, it hits the screen, which is the body that you're playing through. And when it hits the screen, if I don't have a sufficient level of awareness to feel through that fully and I identify with it, then it begins to create an imagination that I live through. So embodiment, the idea of embodiment is to be able to drive my body in a way where there's enough awareness in my body that anything that comes in at any point in time I can feel through in the moment without identifying. Now, this this is tricky initially because there's a lot of accumulated ideas, accumulated beliefs that form what we might call a socially accepted reality. Right now, I'm in the city of New York, which is where I grew up, and this is a socially accepted reality. And the thing that everyone has in common is that they share the beliefs that construct this reality together. However, there's nothing actually real about it other than the fact that everyone who is playing within this reality shares beliefs that form it. And what is coming up now, for everyone in the collective is that these beliefs are being cleared out of the collective field because there's a lot of awareness that's here. We can feel it. It feels like, to the body, it feels like stress. It feels like tension. It feels like a lot of pressure. It feels like the head wants to explode. It feels like panic coming up. And it's what's making everyone trigger happy. And not just trigger happy, but um, it makes it difficult to focus. And the effect is that you may be talking to somebody and they kind of glitch out in the sense that, and this is what I've been noticing, in the sense that they'll be here one moment and then completely drift away the next, and then come back and forget what was going on because there's not enough presence, there's not enough focus, there's not enough here-ness within them to be able to process all of the ideas that they're feeling now, because there's so much more awareness that they're now feeling all of the accumulated weight of those ideas that they weren't that they believed in, that they believed in when they showed up in their past, and they weren't able to see that there is no such thing. You see, this is how we move through this without accumulating, and accumulation is really what is referred to by karma. And I personally don't like the word karma because it's very poorly understood. Anytime anyone uses the word karma um, without defining it, it doesn't really mean anything. There's nothing to touch there. There's some sort of an idea of what karma is from some sort of um, crossover from in India and from teachings from India that people have gotten from various different sources, but every single one of them comes from a different source, and it's not defined very well. And so I like to avoid that word simply because it's not very well understood. And when I use the word, then your mind automatically tries to pick up some sort of a meaning of it. Oh, yeah, I know what karma is, without actually feeling it, without actually diving into the depth of it. And the mind is doing this all the time with words. But when we're talking about concepts like karma and exactly how it's playing out, and what I'm actually pointing at here, which is ideas that show up that are asking you to believe in them in the moment, which is all that's ever happening. And if you do believe in it, then it creates a reality and it stays there until you snap out of it, until you pop out of it, until you recognize it and say, "Oh, wow, I am not that. I've never been that. That is not me." And you see yourself. You see yourself as presence. You see yourself as awareness. And and you pop that limitation. You see, so when you're not aware, when you're what we would typically call asleep, then you're just accumulating karma because every idea that shows up, you just believe it. There's nothing there that is recognizing that, oh, I'm not that. That's just showing up there so that I can recognize it and expand more into the unlimited self that I am. Embody more, go deeper into embodiment. So I welcome any questions in the chats during this satsang series. I welcome you to continue following along during the satsang series. The satsang videos, I don't feel that they will be very long, although that may shift throughout the series and we may stretch them out so that they're longer. But my feeling is that everyone is getting bombarded by Zoom calls and videos at this point. And so an hour or an hour and a half of investment on a daily basis is a lot. So I feel my feeling is that I'm going to keep them short, brief, and to the point to give you the most amount of support possible as we are surfing this intensity together. Right. So I'm going to close today, and I hope this was useful for you. Please leave any comments, and I will respond to them. And if you have any particular questions that do come up, you can email them to me, send them to me in Messenger or through a DM in Instagram, and I will address them in the video satsang. And if you don't want them addressed in the video satsang and you just have a question, then feel free to write that to me as well. Okay, I love you, and I will see you tomorrow. Have a beautiful day, evening, morning, wherever you are in the world. Bye bye now.